Hi there, I'm Pete Hammond. For this edition of Half Hour With, very happy to have two Oscar nominees this year. Very excited for them. And the name of the movie, it's a live action short. So not a feature film, but it's great that the Academy has recognition for shorts because it was kind of becoming a lost art. And they are some of the best movies I've seen this year. And this is one of them. It's called The After, and it stars David Oyelowo, and he is also a producer on it. But here today we have the film's creative team, basically the top of the creative team, the director. This is Misan Harriman. Hi, how are you?
Hello, sir. Hello.
And producer. She's done so much stuff in the business for the last 20 years or so. Her film, The Duke, played Telluride, starred Helen Mirren and Jim Broadbent. So many other things, documentaries all over the map. Nicky Bentham, hi.
Hi, Pete. Hi, Pete. So
How
great
are
to be
you?
here with you. I'm
Yes.
really great.
So nice to see both of you again. I just feel like I just saw you because you were out in LA for the Oscar nominees lunch, Miss Son. This is your first film. Now, I neglected to say that you are a world-renowned photographer and master of all things culture and all kinds of things you do in your life. You have photographed the top of the top and so many things in civil rights. You're an activist, and I'm really impressive resume. But now you're in the world of film too. What's it like? What was it like for you to be in that room with this?
Well, look, it was amazing. Nikki and I still, we're a little jet lagged and very confused about what we just experienced pretty much 24 hours ago. To be in the same rooms as, not just the Marty Scorsese and Spielberg's, but all of the great cinematographers and writers and the real sort of faces as well behind these extraordinary films, because it isn't just for the big stars. And that's what felt really special. It felt like the totality of what the film, the engine room of what this incredible industry is. And to see all of those people be recognized was something really special.
Yeah, and this film is really special. Before I show our first clip, we're going to show a couple of clips from it here in the show. But can you talk about what it's about? Just sort of set it up and tell us, basically what we're going to see. And the scene that we're going to show is near the beginning where he's walking with his daughter, Laura. And so set it up for us here, the movie.
I mean, the film is about a businessman called Dio, a Londoner, who is having a regular day in the middle of the city with his daughter and then his wife. And then he witnesses a really horrific and violent incident in the center of the city. And in an instant, his life crumbles. And so we then re-meet him a year later as he's trying to reconnect with himself and the world.
Yeah, it is about so many things, but grief is chief among them, and dealing with that. And it is interesting. And the traumatic incident happens to him involves his family in a very tragic way. And so this is a devastating moment. The clip we're going to see is just before that happens. So let's take a look at The After with David Oyelowo and a terrific young actress, Amelie de Kubo.
Laura! Where are you going?
Come and dance with me, Dad.
What, here?
Yes.
Okay, you're gonna show me?
Okay. Hands out. 1 foot behind. Then the other foot. Spin. And then you lean forward and your hands in the air.
Okay, we'll do it again?
We'll try fast.
All right, faster. Okay, right. Whoa. Whoa. I think I can do a better dance than that. You want to see my dance?
Go on then.
Whoa. I think my dance is better than yours.
Rubbish.
What? Rubbish?
Yes.
I'm sorry I can't stay.
Careful, mate. You all right?
Yes.
Do you want me to come to your show?
Yes.
Misan, why did you decide to work in the short form here? How did this project come about, this story and the opportunity to make this film with David?
Great advice from Nicky Bentham. You know, I think we knew with me, just because of the attention economics of me doing a first film, would be a lot of eyes. I think Nicky wanted to protect me and make sure I don't drown in the, sometimes laborious process of doing a feature length when I had never made anything before. And also the intensity of a 5-day shoot is really a baptism of fire. If you can handle that kind of pressure, it bodes pretty well for your future in this industry. So there was kind of a double side. Let's see what he can do under lots of pressure, and let's not have this poor man drown as he's trying to enter this industry. And I think it worked out really well. And I thank the great sage advice from Nicky into going into the short form first.
Nicky, talk about it from your aspect. How did you come up with this this idea then for him?
Well, actually, what happened was it was the summer of 2020, and through a mutual friend, I was introduced to Misan, and I was a great admirer of his photography, of course, and desperate to meet him. And when we met and started talking, a lot about his imagery and his activism work. Much of it around the Black Lives Matter movement, which was very much sort of at its peak in that summer. And we talked about lots of ideas, and it was just so clear to me that he's a man that's so full of empathy and so full of incredible stories. And so I asked him if he'd ever considered filmmaking, and to my delight, he said that he considered it all the time, and it was he was absolutely desperate to make a film. And I think what Misan's talking about there, the advice is that I could see that he had so much of the natural ability and the skills and tools that would be so useful in filmmaking. But really, I just said to him, like, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and if you really want a career, you're probably best to start off with something small and something that you're really passionate about. And incredibly, when I asked him what story he'd like to tell, he told me this story of the after. It was already there in rough sketches, and it was such a powerful and moving story just in that form that I thought, well, if we can capture a little bit of that and get it on the screen, I think it might be something very powerful. So I was on board from the moment we met.
So, Misan, the story itself, was there personal references to it or something that from your past, or how did you come about? Because again, I wanted people to see this, but it's hard to talk about and not give away stuff. But this is heavily about grief. One man who's basically lost it all in a moment.
Yeah.
And so we need to talk about that, what happens to his family, and it's a sudden, shocking thing.
Yeah. I think in every storyteller there is a bit of themselves in the stories they weave, and of course, I have known loss, and unfortunately, there are people in my life that were taken without any warning or expectation. So there's that. But there's also the grief that was 2020. 2020, I think we were all grieving. The world went upside down when COVID came into our lives. Many of our internal traumas climbed out of us when we were in lockdown. and serious mental health challenges. Some of us lost friends and relatives to COVID, and of course George Floyd happened that year as well, and many of us had to deal with that sort of trauma. So I think it's a tapestry of personal experiences, but also my observation of how we are all struggling. And I wanted to make something to let people know that it's okay to have scars, invisible or otherwise, and we can try and look toward the horizon together.
And how did David get involved?
I DM'd him on Instagram, amazingly.
Wow. Okay.
And yeah, I did not know him. I had been fans for him of him for 2 decades, if not longer. And he responded. He never checks his messages, so I think something otherworldly was happening. And he knew of my photography, and he came on very, very early. And David does not need to be doing short films. So for him to decide to do this project is just a miraculous thing that I still can't believe to this day.
And he also is involved as a producer, is that right, Nicky, as well on it? He got very involved in this, not just an acting job.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And I think that he's the sort of person that, puts his whole heart into a project. And especially with this one, he connected so deeply. And he wasn't just going to sort of sign up and give us a few days of his time when he happened to be in London. He actually wanted to come on board and be really involved with how we would craft it and how we'd put it all together and in the whole creative process. So it was and that was a total joy, because he was completely invested and just a wonderful partner to have on the journey.
Yeah. And this is a wrenching emotional role for him. And it amazes me with short films how you can achieve it. You can go from A to Z so quickly and make it feel like, that's all the time you need to tell us everything we need to know, which I thought was really interesting here. What was he like? This is your first film, Misan, and your first film, and you're directing him. Are you a little sheepish about giving him direction, or how did that work?
I always say it felt like our souls knew each other from another life. We're both British Nigerian, so we have many of the same lived experiences. We're quite similar in age, and honestly, there was a safety afforded to me from him that made me feel like I couldn't make mistakes. That everything that I was doing was, in the general right direction, and I believe that he felt very safe to be as extraordinarily vulnerable and raw as you see on the screen. There was something and the whole cast and crew, it was infectious. We kind of knew that if we got this right, if we allowed the emotions to pour into the screen in the way that we believe we could, if we got the stunt work right, if we shot this film in the way that we wanted, with an unusual narrative arc, that we just may have lightning in a bottle. And it all came from a trust from Nicky and David down to everyone else involved in this.
Yeah, you mentioned the stunt work there. I know that's interesting because that's in the beginning of the film, and it's like right out of any kind of action thriller that you've seen. I mean, it was really effectively shot, and it's startling. I mean, I see a lot of movies, but I, sat up and watch this and I go, whoa, what is going on here? How difficult was it to stage that particular thing where this violent act happens out of nowhere, just all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, it was pretty complex to put it together. We were shooting right in the middle of London, so I mean, even just to find a location that would allow us to film in the center of, I mean, regardless of what you're filming, it's tricky, but to do a big stunt like that, which is it's inevitable that it's going to be in view of the public. So we had a lot of considerations with the police and the local council, as well as all of the private locations around the area. And And I mean, I think that part of the sensitivity is that these horrific things, I mean, they don't happen to everyone, but they do happen. These really horrific, violent incidents, they do happen, and so there's obviously a sensitivity around that, and making sure that we sort of depict it in a way that is not gratuitous and serves the story, but also has that sort of the visceral impact. And it was something that Misan was really clear about from the beginning, is that this story has to be experienced on Dio, David's character, on his shoulder. We learn and understand everything as he does, and see it all as he does. And I think that's what it makes it so powerful, is that it's a shock to everyone.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I should mention the two actresses here that you had are both great. And in limited screen time, we feel this family. We get to know this family, and you totally know the love there. That's Jessica Plummer, who plays the mother, and Amelie Dokubo. So now, where did we find Amelie for this? Because I noticed on IMDb it's her only screen credit.
Yeah, we found her through our incredible casting director, Aisha Bywaters, who put together a list. So Amelie does have an agent, and I think she's done some, she's done some drama, and is just kind of, just stepping out into screen work. And this was her first.
Yeah.
So we were really well guided by our casting director, and very lucky to find such a talented young actress.
Exactly. I want to show, because the film jumps a year in time, and he's a driver. So we pick up the story with David's character a year later, and let's take a look at this clip, this short clip from the after.
Hi, Dio. It's James. I'm just calling to see how you're doing, mate. We all miss you.
Hi, Dio. It's Jasmina here from Hammond, Smith & Fulham Crisis Management. You've missed your last 4 appointments. We conducted another home visit yesterday, but you weren't there again. If you no longer need Thursday's appointment, please call this number.
Okay, that's a short from a short. That's a short clip. What's the running time on this? 18 minutes. You don't want to show too much here.
No.
But I'd love to show you the whole movie. That's why I want people to see it. And I neglected to say too, this is Netflix. So it gets to be seen globally and fairly easily on Netflix, which is a great thing. Nicky, talk about the Netflix part of it.
Sure. When we first started talking, Miss Anne and I started talking, we brought on board a really talented young writer called John Julius Schwabach, and he started working on the script with us. And we talked to Netflix UK about it, and they were certainly very keen in Miss Anne, and interested that he was going to be working in film, and they liked the idea for it. And they said, "Oh, this sounds so exciting, but we don't really do short films," which we knew. So we were like, "Okay, well, nice to chat." And we carried on sort of talking to a few other potential funders about it, and we had a really good response, actually. But it was probably a week or two later that the then exec at Netflix just called us up and said, "This isn't something that we do, but we really want to see this film happen, so we're gonna roll the dice and give it a go." And so it was quite a shock, really, but it was it seemed that it was maybe fated somehow. The way the whole film came together was just that everyone just wanted to see it made, and so incredible support and amazing people came together to make it possible.
And now it's part of the reason Netflix had the leading number of Oscar nominations this year.
I know.
I didn't even
Congratulations.
realize that.
Oh
Okay.
yes, right? So smart of them, and looking in the rear view mirror here. There were some very, very heavy scenes that he had to play in the latter part of the film. I mean, it's just like the physicality of grief and everything. Miss San, how nervous were you in going too far with that, or making it what it became, which was measured but so powerful to watch?
I think there comes a point when you're observing unfiltered pain and unfiltered humanity where the storyboarding and script only gets you so far, and then you have to decide as a filmmaker to be ready to stay with him and see where he takes you. This is David I'm talking about. So we have that one shot, without giving too much away, that stays with him, and I wanted the audience to almost not have anywhere they could look away from and be forced to stay with this man that you for a good 10 minutes by now have known is carrying the heaviest of weights, and he needs you to stay with him. He can't be left alone on the floor. You, as the audience, have to stay with him. And that was I think a choice that Nicky and I and David in many ways fought for, because it could have been very easy to cut away and try and manipulate the audience, but we stayed with him. And I think David's one of the great actors of our time, and what he gave us, again without giving too much away, is something I hope we're lucky enough to deserve and use to go on our own healing process. It's
I
that
think,
special,
yeah,
in my opinion.
it's absolutely true. I think also the introduction of, as he's driving the Uber, he meets different families and things, and you see him living, and he's such a expressive actor. His face is so expressive. He doesn't have to have any dialogue. You know exactly
No,
what's
no,
going
no.
through it, which is what I love. But there is one ride that he has a family that he's taking back to their house, and bringing them in, and those three people and their perception of what they're watching, I thought was very interesting and really helps the audience. I mean, they almost are looking at it as the audience there. We have them.
Well, Pete, Pete, one thing I'll say about that is I'm a father of two little girls, and my children have taught me more in the short time I've had with them than I could ever teach them. And there's something celestial about little people. Before adulthood gets hold of them, there's a purity to how they see us and the world that we need so much, especially now. And there is a scene in this film where a child who is unseen by those that are supposed to love her, and she sees David's character, when he really needs to be seen. And I wanted that to be there. There are many different ways to take what happens, but one thing's for sure, I wanted to make sure people that are parents don't forget how lucky and privileged we all are to be the caretakers of these extraordinary souls called children.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, another actress you found there, and it's a lovely moment. Can I ask you, Nikki, what is the budget of a movie like this compared to your feature films and things? And how it's just so professionally made. Looks like a major movie in terms of its production value. But
Well, thank you very much, because it did not have the budget of a major motion picture, but I mean, we were I've made short films quite a long time ago now, where it's beg, borrow and steal, and it's all lots of favors. And although I would say we did have some favors, and we had a lot of generous spirited people coming together. Obviously it's a film made for Netflix, so everyone's being paid, and you know, and it's probably more than most short films, but it's certainly nowhere near a feature budget.
So Misan, I have to ask you, has this whet your appetite? I know you are in demand as a photographer. You've done everybody, you know, and all that amazing civil rights and Black Lives Matter and all of the activism. But is there room for more filmmaking here? Is this your next profession here?
I feel this is what I was born to do. If I am allowed to, I would like to spend the rest of my life telling pictures, both with the still image, but also the moving image. There's a fluidity to how I believe storytelling is, which means that it's part of the same path and creative tool set that I've needed, but I never had those tools until the after. So I will always want to be a filmmaker if the industry allows me to. I certainly want to make more films.
Well, I certainly hope you do. Before we go, we have a question that we like to ask at the end of our half hour with. So I'll ask it of each of you. So if someone hasn't had the chance to see the after, is there one thing about this short film that stands out for you that makes someone check it out, that they should check it out, or make them want to check it out? Misan, what is it about this film you want people to know most?
I think it's a film that, if you look at the current news cycle, if you look at the last 3 years, this is a film that turns the mirror on us and allows us to have faith in all of our perfect imperfections and hopefully know that it's okay not to be okay.
Good answer. Nicky?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we really wanted to do with this film is, I mean, we know that grief and loss is something that's universal, but I think what we wanted to highlight was the idea that simple human kindness is so powerful and needed more than ever. And so I think that we wanted to leave audiences with that feeling of hope.
And that it does. I hope everyone checks this out on Netflix. And thank you both for joining us here on Half
Thank
Hour
you.
With. And I will see you at the Oscars.
See you there.
Wow. Take care. It's true.
All right. Thanks, guys.